We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing today? Final Cut Pro TV Live, and I'm going to turn that down a little bit, and we've got all kinds of stuff today. Now, this is a slow news period for Final Cut Pro stuff, but there's always a couple of things we're going to talk about. One of the things we're going to be doing, let me see something here, is we're going to be featuring some of the a tutorial or two of the week, as I call it, ones that I like, that caught my attention. And we're going to give away some copies of FCP DIET 2, FCP DIET 2 today, like we did last week with Alex, who makes FCP DIET 2. And then look at this. So it's snowing in the backyard right now. This is Final Cut Pro Radio HQ cam, and it started snowing again. I've got a couple of snow videos to play today. And we have another free plugin we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a tutorial. And let me just check and make sure. Yeah, it's on. So it's snowing in the backyard. Yeah, just checking the audio. Last week I had a little problem with the audio, and of course, what was it? It was, I forgot to turn the speakers on. That's why I couldn't hear audio last week. So this week's not a problem. Yeah, just checking the audio. Last week I had just checking the audio on Facebook. So there's the bird feeders. Let me just hone in on this a little bit. The bird feeders are, I mean, the birds are very thankful. We put bird food down for them anytime, all winter long. We have suet in there and then stuff, but we put it on the ground today. I had, right below the bird feeder, I had plowed that, and they've been down there eating all morning long. So, how's everybody doing? I'm going to just write a comment here, make sure they're coming through. Let's see if it comes through okay. Here we go. So we have this new animation of the comments. See if it goes off like it's supposed to last 12 seconds. I think I have it set for 12 seconds. Yes, it goes off by itself. So that's the new animation that I was trying to get working last week, and I couldn't quite get it working. This week I got it working, so we're doing good. So what's up? We have got a lot of snow. Well, I don't mean a foot. We got about 6-8 inches over the last 2 weeks. Now, we didn't get as much as we've gotten in the past, which has been let me pull this up. This was from 11 years ago. We get a lot of snow, typically right around Valentine's Day. Kibby Collins says everything looks really good. This was a video from 11 years ago. This is how much snow we had. So 11 years ago, we got 2 30-inch snowfalls back to back. So we had one 30-inch snowfall, and then about a week later, we had a second 30-inch snowfall. That was a lot of snow, as you can see. That pile was across the street where the plows had pushed it up out of clearing the driveway. But it was over 10, 12 feet tall, that actual pile. We don't have that much now. We do not have that much now. Let's see. It is still snowing. Look at that. Snowing again. We got some snow the other night, as you can see, the backyard. This is the full backyard. Let me pull that up there. That's the full backyard, but we want to concentrate on the snow on the bird feeder. So this is the Mevo Start. So I open it up. I can zoom in. I can zoom out with my iPhone. The Mevo Start is a wireless web camera. So this, of course, is my Stream Deck XL. This is my Apollo Twin X. This is my drink, which is pink lemonade, some kind of a 0-calorie sparkling ice, pink grapefruit. I'm sorry, not pink lemonade. And that's what we've got going on my desk. Of course, we have the Apple phone back there that could ring today. Have to see how that works. Just testing this out. So I got the comments now are sliding in like that. So let's see what else. What else do we have? Let's go over some of the details. So welcome to FCP TV Live. Now, if you don't know, I have the website FCPTV.live. I bought that recently, that domain. Let me just pull this up. Here we go. So we're going to go over some of the best Final Cut Pro tutorials and plugins of the week. I'm going to do that kind of like on a semi-regular basis, especially when there's not a lot of Final Cut Pro news. Let me just pull this down a little bit out of the way of the text. There we go. And we'll pull that back. Going to give away copies of FCP DIET 2. So you might say, what is FCP DIET 2? That's what you might say, right? Maybe you might say that. Let's see, where is that web page? Here we go. This is FCP DIET 2. Basically, FCP DIET 2, it shrinks your file size of the Final Cut Pro library. And it does it very effectively. It does a whole bunch of different things. It never deletes something, and you can always recover it. I think it puts it in a special trash. Hello, Richard. Greetings from Abu Dhabi. I'm sorry, Lutz. How you doing? I know it's not snowing over there, that's for sure. Let me just adjust this. We got sound now, right? Yeah, we got sound. I can see it registering. But we're going to give away some copies of FCP DIET 2 today. And we got another free plugin that we're going to talk about. We like these developers. We like to give developers money, like the Final Cut Pro team. We like to give the Final Cut Pro team money for sure. But we also like getting free updates, right? I know I do. So I like the combination of the two. All right, let's go back to our slides. Giving away a couple of copies of FCP DIET 2 and another free plugin we're going to talk about. We're going to promote them. So one of the questions, can your Mac run macOS Big Sur? That's one of the questions people have. Here's a list. MacBook 2015 and later. MacBook Air 2013 and later. MacBook Air is like a lightweight MacBook. I'm kind of surprised it goes back that far, but it does. MacBook Pro 2013, Mac Mini 2014, iMac 2014, iMac Pro 2017 and later. That's interesting. That's what I had, the 2017, and Mac Pro 2013 and later. You can't hear me. Everything's working on my end. No, if the audio is working, let me just double check. But it should be working fine. You can't hear me. Yeah, you can hear. I just checked. You can absolutely hear. So you must have your audio turned down. But I can see, look, when I do, here's how I can tell. Let me just pull this up. This is my desk. This is what I'm watching. Let me pull this over here. This is my, wait a minute. Okay, this is my screen, right? This is my screen. So right over here, I can see the audio. If it's going out to the live stream, which is right down there. That's my audio for the live stream. And I just checked the live stream itself, audio-wise, and it was fine. Yeah, you says your audio is fine. We can hear you, and Man Cave says, okay, it's me. So it's okay to let me know, because sometimes I forget to unmute myself, but I'm watching the meters going and everything's fine. So my late 2013 MacBook Pro does not support Big Sur. Is that right? 2013? Well, according to this, it does. Let me pull that back up. According to this, it says MacBook Pro late 2013 and later should support Big Sur. You're saying that yours doesn't. That's interesting. How late was it? Did they have two? Did they have two Mac Pros in 2013? Is that what the deal is? Could have been. It could have been. I don't know. But it says late and later is supported according to that document, that Apple document. So let's go back to our slides. So one of the free plugins that we got is Lines for Final Cut Pro. Let me pull that up. Where is that? Oh, I know where it is. FX Factory. Take it out of live demo mode. I got to go over to here. FX Factory. Let's pull that up. FX Factory. Let me see, where is that? Here we go. So let's pull this up. Wait a second here. Web page, let's pull this up. This is free. Anyway, it's free over there at FX Factory. I was pleasantly surprised. Lines free. So go to fxfactory.com. I'll put the URL up. Here we go. Let me do this. Add. There we go. So that's where you get lines. fxfactory.com info lines. It's free. They made that one for free. There's probably a pro version coming out. I would presume that's why it's free at this point. But it is free for the time being, so that's very cool. So that's the other free plugin for today, FX Factory. Let's go back to our slides here. So there's a new Thunderbolt 4 dock with up to 90-watt charging for Macs. So there's one that OWC had out a few, you could pre-order it a few months ago. I'm not sure which. But it wasn't really Thunderbolt 4. I know the owner said it was. It would make it, well, it didn't make Thunderbolt 3 Max into Thunderbolt 4 is what they were saying. But there's a new one out, and it's right now it's $50 cheaper than the one from OWC. Let's look at that. It's the, here we go. Let me just pull this up. I'm not sure why these don't, but they don't. Hold on one second. Here we go. So I'm not sure right now, as you can see, let me see if I can point to it correctly. Right above me, it is $199.99 pre-order sign up versus the OWC, which was $249. So this is $50 cheaper than the OWC. Universal Thunderbolt 2 docking station with 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, 8K display ports, Thunderbolt 4 computers, M1X, Thunderbolt 3 Macs, also compatible with late model Windows, Mac and Windows both. So that's the Echo Thunderbolt 4 dock. I have put in a pre-order for that, anticipating getting a M1 MacBook Pro, which I anticipate getting sometime, do you think 2021? I think so. 2021. I hope the MacBook Pro comes out in 2021. That would be very cool. Michael Wright says, it's a 15-inch MacBook Pro. Won't let me update model number. Been hitting how Apple said no luck. Well, it says the late model ones. You must have had a mid-year or something. So a good tip, Gary Frailberg, you do have to download and install the FCP Factory app to run lines. Okay, there you go. I have a lot of FX Factory plugins. I have a lot of those. So I already have it installed. You have to update it if you don't have it updated, if it's not current yet. So let's go back to our slideshow. There it is. So once again, this is $50 cheaper than the OWC. They look kind of identical. They might be the same, exactly the same, I don't know, but this one's $50 cheaper. I don't need it for my Mac Pro, okay? I have a bunch, I have 8 Thunderbolt 3 ports and 6 USB 3 ports, and I have two 10 gig Ethernet ports. I have an HDMI port and an audio. Is it audio in and out? I don't remember. I think it is audio in and out. So I don't need it for the Mac Pro, but I'm anticipating getting the MacBook Pro, the M1 MacBook Pro, or if they come out with a Mac Mini Pro, that would be another one that I would consider. But I'm sure I'm going to have to get this for that. I'm not going to get any M1 Mac that doesn't have 4 Thunderbolt ports, period. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get one of the entry-level ones that has just 2. I need at least 4 natively. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing. Possible new Macs during the March event. Crossing my fingers for an iMac update. I think you'll probably see an iMac update in 2021. iMac Pro, perhaps not. I think the difference is the iMac itself takes the mobile chips, and the iMac Pro, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have one, takes Xeon server chips like my Mac Pro does. 2 different things. Completely 2 different things. Info screen in About My Mac says late 2013. So according to that graphic, you should be able to update to Big Sur. Now, I wouldn't be in a hurry necessarily. I've used it, had some issues with it, so we'll see how that goes. So, does anybody want a copy of FCP DIET 2? Just post something in there, and I'll pick a comment or 2, and we'll give away some copies of that as we're going. Here's the tutorial that I'm going to highlight today. Animate text with keyframes in Final Cut Pro. Keyframes made simple. Let me pull that up. Here we go. Let me play through this stinky ad first, so you guys have to do that. Don't make you sit through the ads. So here we are, web page. This was listed on. We're going
to have a look at how we animate type with keyframes. Now, there's lots of different ways of animating type in Final Cut Pro. You can use some plugins for it. We're just going to focus on the very basic use of keyframes for animating type, which can be useful in some situations. So we're going to come up to our type and generators up on the top left here. And we are going to dive into our titles. And what we're looking for here is the bumper and opener option. And we're looking for the basic title. So this is just kind of a stripped down version, your very kind of basic title. And we'll drag that down to the timeline. And I'm just going to trim this down so it's just the length of this short edition here. And then I'm going to play this through. And I'm just looking at how.
Oh, there they go back to another commercial. Okay.
Best value bundle for Final
So that was our friend Ben Housall. He's on the FCP Tips and Tricks Facebook page. That's where I saw that one. I tell you, those ads, I understand that YouTube has those ads that go in there, but boy, they're annoying sometimes. It's just, I wish they put them all at the beginning or all at the end. Of course, if you do that, you'll skip through them or something. I understand it's necessary. That's completely understandable. You're getting it for free, but it's just annoying. They are very, very annoying. I want the advertisers to know. Let me check something else. I think, all right, we'll go back to our slideshow here. So that's the tutorial I'm sharing this week. There's a couple of other ones that I had, but that's the one that I wanted to highlight. So here is a pro cooking tip. How many of you people cook out there? Let me just check on pro cooking tip. This is one of the best tips for anybody that cooks. If you stir coconut oil into your kale, it makes it easier to scrape it into the trash. Works. It works. I can guarantee you. Whenever I make kale, I put coconut oil in it, and I can scrape it into the trash so I don't have to eat it. That's one of the tips we have for today. So we have a couple comments here. I bought FCP DIET 2. Happy so far. That's fantastic. Man Cave Productions says a copy of DIET would be nice. Okay, you've got a copy of DIET. You have to contact me after the show, and I'll give you a code. You can download DIET 2 and Kibby Collins says, would love FCP DIET 2. Okay, you got yourself a copy. Contact me after the show. What's the difference between FCP DIET and Arctic Whiteness? You'll have to, there's a difference. The one is just, well, the DIET 2, first off, he gives away copies for us to give away on the show. So I like them a lot. Arctic Whiteness as well. Has a very nice product. I use both of them. The exact difference, I don't know how to describe the exact difference. I lost 25 pounds since COVID, but my iMac looks fatter. FCP DIET would match us up again. All right, Eric Emmerich, you have won a copy of FCP DIET 2. Contact me after the show. You lost 25 pounds. That is commendable. Got to get yourself YouTube Premium. No more ads, background play when the screen is locked. That's fantastic. Jeff says I'll have to try it. It's a new app, Jeff. FCP DIET 2. It makes your library smaller by getting rid of things you don't need, like duplicate clips for one of the things. We had Alex on. Watch Alex. He was on a couple weeks ago. As a matter of fact, it was kind of unusual. I had 2 Alexes on in a row on FCP TV Live. 2 weeks in a row, I had 2 Alexes on. So watch one of the prior episodes, and he talks all about exactly what it is. Eric Emmerich says, thanks, Richard. You're more than welcome, Eric. That's all we're going to give away today. Let me see. I'm going to grab a drink here. Ice. This is called ice. When I go to the FCP Creative Summit and NAB, I always bring my own. I used to bring my own drinks with me. Any birds in the feeder? Up. It actually even stopped snowing. Look at that. It was snowing, then it stopped. All right. Here's video. So here's another video. So I went on a live walk in the snow around our neighborhood. This is what it was like yesterday. I took an umbrella because the last time I went on the walk, all my equipment got wet. So this time I protected the equipment. I actually have my iPhone 12 Pro Macs, some microphones hooked in to the audio so I can get better audio, but I'm learning.
Traffic out here today.
Now this video was only been up for 24 hours.
Everything looks really, really slippery.
It was really slippery.
Probably have an inch or two, some snow, some ice. You can hear the ice hitting my umbrella.
I'll fast forward to the end. This is the
you
road.
can see it hasn't been plowed. Back home.
It really came down hard here for a little bit toward the end when I was walking. It's pretty though, isn't it? If you like snow. I like snow myself, so. These are just some scenes around where I live in Carroll County, Maryland. Coming down really hard though. Look at it. There you go. It was coming down very hard yesterday. I was out there and I took my umbrella. I have to. That worked really well. Jeff says I could really use that. Have to check it out. Jeff, it's only $10. At $10, I highly recommend it. FCP DIET 2. So we'll probably see M1 Max first, iMacs first, I think, but only the smaller beginner models. Might be bigger than a 21 though. Just like we got the Air and 13 first. But I think they're going to bring out the M1. As a matter of fact, let's talk about it. It's on my slideshow. Let's go here. So here's another tip. Here's another tip. Page, where are we? Graphics, slides. 2 masks, not enough. 2 masks, they are not enough. A year ago they said we don't want any masks. Then they said 1 mask. Now they're saying 2 masks. Then they're saying that that's not enough. Here's what you need to do. Going forward, there's what you need to do. Then you'll be safe. So we're going to see another bug fix update for Final Cut Pro 10.5.2 anyone? I think we are. I'm seeing too many reports of bugs in Final Cut Pro. I'm still expecting, absolutely expecting, Final Cut Pro 10.6 to come out in 2021. I'm thinking the first half. Hard to tell, but the 10-year anniversary happens in June. It'd be a perfect time to release a major version of Final Cut. None of this little piddly stuff they did with 10.5. That was, I understand why they did it, but it's not very, it didn't give much. Jeff's laughing at my mask thing. By the way, I want to mention our friend Tony Gallardo's in Texas. He says, please tell everyone we are good and everything seems to be back to normal. Thanks to everyone who reached out and gave words of encouragement. I'd been talking with Tony ever since I heard about the issues over there in Texas. But let's go back to our FCP 10.5.2. So I think Final Cut Pro 10.6, a major version is coming out. They could call it Final Cut Pro 11. I don't know. But it's something major I'm pretty sure is happening. It's not going to be a little update. I mean, 10.5 was basically for the M1 Max. I completely understand that. But why 10.5? We haven't had a major full number update, full point update for over 3 years. 10.4 was over 3 years ago. 10.5 was not a major full point update. It was just a little blip. Marketing wanted it. So anyway, let's go on to the Apple Silicon. Let me pull this up out of the way. M1X Pro Apple Silicon Macs. So there's been reports that there's been some sightings on some of the websites that report performance that the M1 Pro Apple Silicon Macs have been cited or something. Let me see if I can pull that up. Pull my notes here. Diet 2. Somewhere around here. There is an article that said, Here we go. That said the M1 Macs are coming. So this is the article. Apple M1 chip specification prediction appears on benchmark sites. Well, we know what's happening. We know that it's coming in 2021. They're going to release something in 2021, right? So the M1 was the entry level. The M1 was the very first entry level. It only had 2 Thunderbolt ports, which I would never get a Mac with just 2 Thunderbolt ports. I got to have 4 and some other things. But anyway, the M1 chip specification prediction appears on benchmark sites. Are talking about the successor to the M1, which is what I'll be interested in. Philip Allen says, loving power in Dallas, Texas. Thank you. I'm so glad you have power out there. So a couple years ago, I had lost power for 48 hours from hurricane. I'm not positive, but I think it was Hurricane Irene. We lost power for 48 hours. Now, it wasn't too bad. We even had hot water for 48 hours, using it very, very, very sparingly. The water was still warm after 48 hours. But after we lost that power for 48 hours, I did multiple things. Number one, I heat my home with wood. I have a wood-burning stove. Even without the fan working, it still gets very hot and keeps us warm. I don't need power for heating the place. Number two is we have an outdoor gas grill that has a side burner on it. So it has a little cooktop stove burner that runs on gas. We always have 2 or 3 of those gas canisters, whatever they call those things, those big things, worth of gas anytime there's any kind of inclement weather happening, like the snowstorm. So we could always cook. We could always, number one, make coffee. I could always boil water and make coffee. But after Hurricane Irene, I went out and got a 5,000 watt generator, and I start it up twice a year to make sure it runs. And all I have to do, I had an electrician come in and he put in a plug that goes into my circuit box, disconnects the circuit box from the main power line. That's very important. And I plug it in and it'll run electricity through my entire house. Now, you can't run everything. You can only run a few circuits at a time on that kind of generator. It's not a whole house generator. But that's the third thing that I have. So I have firewood for heat, I have gas for cooking, and coffee for coffee, heating water, and I have a generator, and I have 20 to 30 gallons of gas at any given time. So if we did lose power for a short period of time, we'd be fine. So Jeff Arbala, our friend, did you happen to watch the Frame.io update to Frame.io? We'll be interested to see how the new Final Cut Pro implement this. Yes. I think there's going to be some hooks in the new version of Final Cut Pro to a lot of these third-party developers and plugin manufacturers, absolutely. So it would not surprise me, pleasantly, that they bring out the new version of Final Cut Pro on the 10th year anniversary of Final Cut Pro in June. That would be the first 6 months. It's got to be a big update. It's got to be a whole reworking. This is over 3 years now since Final Cut Pro 10.4 came out. Yes, they've done some things in the meantime. Yes, they added Metal 2 support. Yes, they did Apple Silicon support. How many Final Cut Pro editors does Apple Silicon support affect right now? Small amount. The vast majority of Final Cut Pro editors are editing on Intel and will be for years and years and years. At some point, 2-3 years from now, they might make the switch to stop supporting Final Cut, but I'm running Final Cut Pro 7 when I need it on an old 2010 Mac Pro, and I have an old MacBook Pro. I have those versions as well. they don't stop working. They're not like Adobe that makes your software stop working if you stop paying for them. All right, let's go back to our slides. The M1X, that's what they're calling it so far, which has not surprised me, or the M2, but this is the Pro version. This has got to have 4 Thunderbolt ports. It's got to have beefier graphics. It's got to have, you know, obviously it'll go from 8 cores to 12 cores to 16 cores, whatever the new architecture is. Architecture, not texture, texture. Here's something to keep in mind that I bought Moment lenses for my iPhone. And I kept watching the videos and they kept saying that this is where you screw on the lens for the tele-lens. This is where you screw on the anamorphic lens. And it wasn't working. My phone wasn't like that. Here's the reason. The lenses which switch places between the iPhone 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. They are not in the same positions. That's what was driving me nuts. So the telephoto lens in the iPhone 12 Pro Max is in the top position, as you can see. But on the iPhone 12 Pro, the wide lens is in the top position. So telephoto is in the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but the top position in the iPhone 12 Pro is just the wide, and the telephoto is below it. It was driving me nuts. I kept switching it because they were showing just the iPhone 12 Pro. I didn't know what was going on, but that's what was going on. So FCP TV Live has streamed over 120 hours of content in 2020. I got this notice from YouTube, 120 hours. At this point, we're into February. I've gotten 130 and 135 hours on FCP TV Live like you're watching right now. Just checking something here. Making sure everything's fine. Again, I've got a couple. Yep, everything is fine. There's the backyard. Doesn't look like much happening back there. Gonna grab a drink. One of the things about this Stream Deck is you can program it to do shortcuts. So I can do shortcuts for any application. I can do shortcuts, and you can change these keys. It also works in Final Cut Pro. There's a company that makes decals, hundreds and hundreds of decals for Final Cut Pro. You can use it in Final Cut Pro as well. That's going to be interesting. I'll probably end up getting some of that. So here's my that's how I zoom in on the backyard. I'll go wide, and then I'll focus in closer. See what happens to the birds. It's controlled. It's a Mevo Start, which is just for web streaming. 1080p, I'm pretty sure it is. And I control it with my iPhone. So one of the other things, yes, Michael says, care to share your thoughts about the recent announcements from Blackmagic Design Guys. If you've been listening to Final Cut Pro Radio, watching these broadcasts, by the way, a YouTube video is not a podcast, okay? A YouTube video is not a podcast. A podcast requires an RSS feed. It can be video, but audio are more popular. RSS feed attached to it. It has to be an attachment in there. And if you're not listed on Apple Podcasts, you're not a podcast. So putting up a YouTube video is not a podcast. Just, I keep seeing people say, I'm doing my podcast on YouTube. No, you're not. That's a video on YouTube. It's completely different. So care to share your thoughts about the recent announcement from Blackmagic Design Guys? If you've been watching the show or listening to the radio show, I bought DaVinci Resolve 17 Studio over Christmas holidays. I still haven't gotten it yet. Along with the speed editor. There's $299 for both. I figured I'd just give it a shot. Because I'm just, waiting for Final Cut Pro to update. It's a little bit on the boring side. So I went and bought that, and I've been using it, and I've done some videos with it, and I really, really like it. I really like it. People put out videos, oh, this NLE is the best NLE, and this NLE is the best NLE, and this is the reason why. None of them are the best. None of them are the best. There's things that I like about Final Cut Pro, and that's my main NLE. But when I go to Resolve and I can have two timelines, one over top each other, I love that. I can have tabbed timelines instead of drop-down buttons and arrows that go left and right, and I don't know which way I'm going, and the timelines disappear. There's things in both NLEs that I really like. The ability to color code clips, so they change color in the timeline. I like that. Visually distinguishing clips in the timeline. Resolve does that. Now, of course, Final Cut Pro has the magnetic timeline. It has lots of other things that I really like, the magnetic timeline being one. Trackless, kinda. They say it's trackless, but it has tracks. They just don't call them tracks. And rolls. I expect to see a roll-based mixer in Final Cut Pro 10.6 when it comes out in 2021. But let's go back to that announcement. Share your thoughts about the recent announcement from Blackmagic Design Guys. Well, let's just talk about that. So,
now it's a HD switcher, so all the HDMI connections support up to 1080p.
Incredible. ATEM Mini Extreme. 8 HDMI cameras. This thing is $1,000, and you have mic 1, mic 2, audio, Ethernet connection, of course, power, USB A, USB 2. It's an incredible like TV station switcher. If you had a need for that, for 8 cameras. I don't have a need for 8. And then some other things. So I really this is what it looks like. ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. The ISO lets you record every camera source as a separate file. And then you can open it up in Resolve as a project. I guess as a multicam or something. I'm not sure how that's going to work. ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. Yeah, so Michael Wright says, the OE switcher that records 9 streams and lets open it up as a project in Resolve is great. It's fantastic. Listen, I really like Resolve. I really like it. So that's one of the other things. And then they came out with, I'm not going to play the video, this thing. Finally, one of the main reasons I was not going to get a Blackmagic camera was because it didn't have an articulating screen. And look what they did. Finally, you have an articulating screen on a Blackmagic, one of these pocket cameras. Finally, after all this time, it just goes up and it goes down, but at least it's something. I can't believe it. And it's a 6K Pro they call it, so the screen actually is articulating. This is tempting. Now, I'm waiting There you go. So you can hold it up and you can finally get an articulating screen that goes both directions. Thank you, Grant Petty and the Blackmagic team for doing that. That's very, very cool. Eric says that's a lot of buttons. It most certainly is. It's way more than what I need. I don't have a TV station where I'm switching that many cameras, but for 1,000, I don't know what the extreme ISO is. They have the extreme and the extreme ISO. I think they're two different models. I'm not sure what the ISO is. Right now, I can have, well, I have this camera. I have this camera. And then I have this camera. This is the GH4. This is an iPhone 6. I think it's an iPhone 6 Pro. This is a Mevo Start, which is specifically a web streaming camera. I think it shoots, I think it's 1080p. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is plenty of cameras for me at this point. I can switch to more if I want to. If I want to switch to more cameras, I have a separate device, a Sling Studio, and I can record 4, 6, 8 more cameras than that. I have an HDMI wireless box that I can use, so I can take an HDMI camera and connect it wirelessly. One of the best things I like about the Sling Studio is it has an app that you can load on your iPhone, and any iPhone can become a wireless camera to the Sling Studio. And then I would just take the Sling Studio and connect it into my Mac via a Camlink 4K. Do I have one of those here somewhere? Somewhere around here. Get where the heck it is. And I would connect it via, so I can connect 2 more iPhone cameras, my GH5 I can connect wirelessly if I wanted to. I could do 4 or 5 cameras, what I have right now. That's plenty. I don't need any more. Michael Wright says, and that is an HDR touchscreen. I'm very impressed with Blackmagic. I'm very impressed with them. If Final Cut had been updated over the last year or two with, a lot of new features and stuff, I never would have looked at Resolve. But the fact that I'm kind of bored with the development cycle of Final Cut at this point, I looked at Resolve. $299, so it was a no-brainer. So we'll see how it works going forward. I had a web presenter, but sold it. May get the new model. Yes, if I needed that many cameras, I certainly would be tempted to buy that. I don't need that many cameras for what I do. I'm doing some live band videos for the summer and the spring. Let me pull that up. See if I can pull that up here. Videos. No, that's... Let me go home. So I have an acre and a half of land, and I started having last year. I started having bands over to my house. Outdoors, specifically. Let me just search across your channel. Specifically to play concerts. Let me just pull this up real quick. So basically they're outside. Okay? This is a local group called Hucklebuck. So I have 3 cameras. This is the main camera, my GH5. And then I have iPhone cameras on both sides so I can switch live. And they're basically outside. The garage door's open. They're staying 6 feet apart from each other. And they're out, basically it's outside. So I'm going to be doing this again this spring. I don't know how much into the summer and in the fall. I'm going to invite bands over. There's the other camera angle. So that's what I use when I need more than 3 cameras. Now what I did was I streamed that live and they got 3,000 to 4,000 views so far. You know, these are bands that I really like. They write original music. I don't do cover bands. And they come over, they set up, we have a good time. We stream live. Everybody stays apart 6 feet. There was a slight audience outside. I mean, a small audience spread out in chairs 8 feet apart from everybody. So they had something to play to live. But I used 3 cameras on that kind of a situation where I switch back and forth. The G5 is the main camera. And I learn each time, of course. Just got the Sony FX6, but like you, I wanted the BM camera, but I used them several times and the screen was horrible. Plus, they have some reliability problems when I'm editing our tracks in Field Dock and Resolve, so down the road may go Blackmagic cameras as well. Yeah, that's interesting. I know that Blackmagic has a tendency to, their ads are fantastic, okay? They do great promotional stuff and graphics. Sometimes there's little problems with things, so I know that for a fact. I've seen it happen before, so I would not rush out and get... Look, that camera, that 6K camera, 6K Pro is $2,500 without a lens, and it's EF mount. I think my one Sigma lens that I'm using up there is EF mount, I think, because I have a adapter on it, one of those adapters, optical adapters, to fit the GH5, which is micro 4/3. I think face locking autofocus is important for these under 8K cameras. Blackmagic doesn't have it as far as I know. I don't think they do have it. So that's, you know, that's one of the things. And if I was getting a camera today without testing the 6K, I would get the Sony a7S III. If I was getting a camera today, the Sony a7S III, I would just buy it, but that's $3,500. The body's $3,500. But the low light performance in that thing is unbeatable. It's once in a while, every once in a while, I need that extreme low light. So if I was getting one today, but I don't need one. I do not need one, so I'm not getting one today. Let's check the backyard. No birds. I'm not sure where the birds must all be on the ground. We saw a crane the other day. There's a small pond back under one of those pine trees, and there is a crane back there looking for the goldfish. A couple of goldfish in there. It's not snowing anymore. So what do y'all think? I think we're waiting on Final Cut Pro the team to do something. I know I am. I mean, I'll be interested. I mean, Final Cut Pro could certainly refocus my attention back on Final Cut, but at this point, all the NLEs have great features that the other ones don't have. My favorite NLEs at this point, I have 3. One's on the iPad, which is LumaFusion. I think it's a fantastic app for editing on the iPad. They have a great development team. I've had them on the show many times. They'll be back again. And then Final Cut Pro is my main NLE because I've been on it since original version of Final Cut since 2000 or 1999, whatever that was. And then I switched over and I have all those years in it, but Resolve is right up there, second place at this point. But there's features in Resolve I really like. Resolve has a scrolling timeline in the edit page. Final Cut Pro took how long to get remove attributes? 5 years, 6 years to get remove attributes? And what did they just add recently? Something they just added recently. Oh, just proxy sizes and stuff. Took 9 years to get that. Sometimes their pace of development seems kind of slow. They do other things fast. I mean, like I said, none of the NLEs are the best NLE. None of them are the best. Eric says, I think new Final Cut Pro comes out in tandem with higher-end Silicon Macs. Certainly could. It certainly could. But I think the Apple Silicon Macs going forward are, you know, they're not just going to be for Final Cut Pro editors, although that's plenty. That's 3 to 4 million at this point. I don't know if they're going to tell us how many. They stopped telling us in 2018. 2018, there was 2.5 million. 2019, 3 million plus or minus. 2020, 4 million. Who the heck knows? But it's over 2.5 million. We've already know that. They announced that. They stopped announcing. So I have a niece, Fernanda in Florida. Since she knows I know Mac, she said, I want to get a new MacBook. I have a 13-inch. What should I get? And I said, get the M1 13-inch versus the Intel version, because they were going to get the Intel. And I said, no, get the M1. So hopefully that's what she did. But I'm waiting for the Pro version. I would get the 16-inch MacBook Pro if it's a nice big screen. I'm not going to jump into it. I don't need to, because I have my 2019 15-inch. I have my Mac Pro as my main machine. Once again, this is my screen. 34-inch ultra wide. It's hard to go from this screen down to a 16-inch MacBook Pro screen. A little bit hard after working on this all day. Plus the power of the Mac Pro is just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Jeff says, love the FX6 and FX9, although everything is sold out. Even the CF Express card is nearly impossible to get the camera, just using both cameras in Final Cut Pro for the Vietnam dock. Excellent. Yeah, those are interesting cameras at this point. Like I said, if I was buying a camera today, I would get the Sony a7S III. Daniel says, which ultra wide do you have? This is an LG 34-inch Thunderbolt 2, I think. I can't remember. Maybe I'm using HDMI. There is a difference between connecting via Thunderbolt and HDMI. I forget which was which. One of the things I learned was it didn't support the full resolution until I got a high-speed Thunderbolt cable. That was an interesting learning curve for me. This is when I got the Mac Pro, 2019 Mac Pro in December of last year. The resolution I couldn't get it, and then somebody said, well, try a high-speed HDMI cable. I tried that. It worked. I think it's HDMI. So I'll be getting another LG for sure. I'm not sure if I need more than 34 inches. 34 is quite enough. These are all the control things that I have everywhere. I have your comments over here. I have Keynote over here. This is Keynote that I'm doing slides on. So I can just check those out. Here's my YouTube so I can check it out. I monitor Facebook. And then here's YouTube for monitoring the stream. But anyway, that's what I have, the 34-inch LG ultra wide, 21:9. Daniel says, I think that's the one I'm looking at. Do you know what the speed of the USBs are in the back? I do not. I would be surprised in 2021 if they're not USB 3 or 3.1 or 3.2. I'd be very surprised. No birds. I guess the birds are not hungry today. That's pretty amazing. All right, let's go back and finish up the slideshow here. I think I'm just about finished. So over 120 hours in 2020. We're up now, we're at 120, 130, 135 hours. Plus Final Cut Pro Radio has over 1.2 million downloads at this point. Snow Walk number 3, I've already shown you. I've already showed you that. So this is, speaking of snow, in my backyard, and I took this at night because it doesn't show up as well during the day. But if you'll see over here, firewood path goes back to my firewood. And then on the other side is the cat path. So we have some neighborhood cats that we take care of. So the cat path, this is the path they come in, and it goes to my sunroom. I have a heated sunroom on the side of the house I put in a few years ago. I designed it and built it from scratch. And I was going to make glass panels, full height glass panels for the sunroom. And instead I put in sliding glass doors. So I have three sliding glass doors, and one side is a glass panel. So I have 3 different doors. So the cats can come in the wintertime. They have heated pads. I have a little space heater on for them when it's really cold into the 20s, for example. And they have a little cat door that they can get in, and other animals can't get in because it's too small. So that is the cat path. So when the snow starts getting deep, they can come up the cat path, and it goes basically right to their cat door. And the firewood. Now, I have firewood close to the house. One of my friends made a comment that said, man, I would get that firewood closer to the house. I have enough firewood in the sunroom and other places under cover that would last me for a week at any given time. That's more than enough. Plus, I do have electric heat. I'm not worried about being cold, but I use firewood as my main source of heat. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to see a new version of Final Cut the first half of 2021, I'm sorry. I think we are. I absolutely think we are. That's the end. That's the end of that. But I do think we could see Final Cut Pro 10.5 before then as a bug fix, maybe a little feature to tie us over the way they did with 10.4.9. 10.4.9 was a nice update. It was a nice update. I wanted to see, but we need something big. We need a roles-based mixer, some audio improvements, all kinds of things that we need. So we'll see what the Final Cut Pro team does. I want to wish everyone a happy 2021 going forward. Final Cut Pro TV Live will, let me see if I have here, social media. FCP TV Live. We'll be back on the air at any time. Of course, you know my name. My name is Richard Taylor, of course. Go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/RichardTaylorTV. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/RichardTaylorTV. Do not send a friend request. I don't accept friend requests from people that I don't know. This is not video stuff typically, but you can watch the live streams are always listed on there. And of course, FCPradio.com, where the podcast is with 1.2 million podcast downloads at this point. We're doing okay. We will be back. I'm going to try to be back once a week. This is like a dry spell for Final Cut. There's not a lot of Final Cut Pro news. You kind of got to sort it out. Philip Allen says, let me pull that up. June sounds about right on Final Cut Pro 10.6. Well, they've never done anything at the anniversary of Final Cut before. They'd never put out an update, big update around that time. But this time, you know, people are saying, is it going to be Final Cut Pro 11? Because it's been 10 years, and they mentioned a 10-year roadmap. But I'm thinking it could be 10.6. 10.5 came out in the fall. 6 months later would be 10.6, the same way that the other Pro Apps team, Logic 10.5 came out in the middle of May last year, right at the heart of the pandemic. The Logic Pro team put out Logic Pro 10.5. 6 months later, the Logic Pro team put out Logic 10.6. I'm thinking the Final Cut Pro team is going to do the same thing. They put out 10.5, which was a tiny little update as far as features and as far as the majority of their users. The majority of the users are on Intel. So the fact that Final Cut Pro works as a universal binary 2 on Apple Silicon did not affect the vast majority of the Intel users that are editing on Final Cut Pro. So we're waiting on the big one, the full point update that we were expecting at 10.5 didn't happen. Perhaps it'll be 10.6 or Final Cut Pro 11 or whatever they're going to do. We have faith in you. I want Final Cut Pro to refocus my attention back onto Final Cut. Of course, I still use Final Cut as my main editing software for a multitude of reasons. But if I had to use Resolve, I could do that. I've already done it. I've made myself put out some videos in Resolve, and I really, really like it. I really like it a lot. So it's number 2 right now. We'll see how going forward how that goes. I have faith in the Final Cut Pro team. I think they will surprise us and put out a fantastic update. Anything else you want to talk about before we get off the air? I'm going to go get some lunch here. I've already done all my snow plowing for the year. Let me see. Videos. I don't think there's any more videos. Just double check. No. Nothing else on the video. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to get out of here. As you know. Have a good weekend, everyone. And I will see you on the next Final Cut Pro FCP TV live show. Oh, gotta go.